Lockdowns don't work.
Mr. Reagan.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. Today's episode is brought to you by the letter F. F is for fascism. Taiwan seemed to mysteriously escape COVID. Taiwan is said by many to have, quote, got it right. Taiwan implemented a mask mandate. They had travel restrictions. They quarantined those who tested positive for COVID. But here's the really interesting thing about Taiwan. Taiwan never implemented a lockdown. In terms of the severity of their COVID response, Taiwan ranks as one of the least severe countries in the world. They didn't close businesses. They didn't lock healthy people in their homes. They didn't arrest people for walking around outside. They went about life, more or less, as normal. So just how well has Taiwan fared? Well, there are 24 million people in Taiwan. Guess how many died of COVID? 12. Los Angeles, by contrast, implemented some of the harshest lockdown restrictions in the United States. The population of Los Angeles County is about 10 million, less than half the population of Taiwan. Guess how many COVID deaths we've had? 23,762. So what did Taiwan do right? Well, that's not exactly clear. As I said, many countries implemented similar measures to Taiwan and fared far worse. I'm sure Taiwan's response will be analyzed by professionals in various disciplines for years. But crucially, Taiwan never imposed a lockdown. Many other governments, on the other hand, governments that fared far worse, like Los Angeles, as I mentioned, did implement lockdowns. These lockdowns were absolutely devastating to the lives of many people.
Never before have so many retailers and healthcare companies gone bankrupt in such a short time.
Some of the worst unemployment numbers in this country's history.
6.6 million plus people laid off in a single week.
Across the nation, jobless rates have now hit the highest level in over 3 years.
People's businesses were destroyed, jobs were lost, suicides went way up. People are now still struggling with depression induced by the isolation they were forced to endure by our governments. Many have become far less active and far less healthy. Many were forced to let their parents die alone. I mean, these lockdowns have been absolutely tragic. The destruction of our social freedoms combined with the brutal economic struggles caused by these lockdowns has absolutely devastated the citizens of these lockdown regions. But those in charge felt that it was all worth it. And if you disagreed, you were accused of being heartless. You were accused of, quote, wanting to kill grandma. But now it's 2021. We have vaccines. Most lockdowns have been eased or ended, and most of the lockdown experiments are over. We can now look back and assess whether or not these lockdowns had any positive effect at all. No, they didn't. We endured a year of devastating economic trauma. We weren't permitted to visit our grandparents or go to school or leave the damn house, and all of it was for nothing, for no reason at all. I'll explain all of this in one moment, but first, of course, I have to tell you something. Did you know collagen comes from the ancient Greek word for glue? This is because collagen acts like a glue between our cells and our body's organs. It's the main structural protein that forms the protective tissue throughout the whole body, from skin to bones, muscle, tendons, and ligaments. The problem is that the body doesn't produce an unlimited amount of collagen. In fact, our bodies produce about 10% less collagen every decade. Those who supplement collagen often note it's like a fountain of youth. Benefits include loss of wrinkles and pain-free joints. This is why I highly recommend Ageless Multi-Collagen from BioTrust. This multi-collagen is a scientifically backed collection of the highest quality types of collagen that our body needs for thicker hair, more youthful skin, healthier nails, pain-free joints. It's flavorless, odorless, and it dissolves quickly. I take this because of the joint issue. I actually have a problem with my joints. I've had it since I was about 14. This is a problem for me. If I want to stay healthy, I take collagen. I highly recommend it for you as well, especially if you're getting up there in age. Like, I'm 41. Some people may think that I look young. Maybe it's partly, at least, because of this collagen stuff. I don't know. But I take it, I like it, genuinely believe in it, and if you don't believe me, you can look it up, the benefits of collagen. It's been highly researched, and it's universally appreciated throughout the medical community. Look it up, collagen, very helpful. And according to the script that they sent me, many users who did not have success with other collagen supplements report that Ageless Multi-Collagen from BioTrust works great for them. And this is it right here. I do take it. This is a closed package, but I do have opened ones, obviously, because I do take this stuff every single morning. I'll get my favorite multi-collagen for 51% off, or by going to healthwithreagan.com. That's healthwithreagan.com, or click the link in the description below. A new study from MIT has revealed that indoors social distancing is another completely useless rule. Martin Bezant, a professor involved in the study, said that specifically that the longer someone is inside with an infected person, the greater chance of transmission. Distance is irrelevant. You could be 6 feet away or 60. It doesn't matter. He also said, get this, all you have to do in order to reduce the infection rate indoors is, no joke, open a window. No fancy air filtration system needed. The study found that public spaces with good ventilation never needed to be closed at any time during the pandemic. For many places, there wasn't even a need to limit capacity. Remember, in many regions, they even banned outdoor activities. Here in LA, Valeria and I were stopped by the Park Service from hiking on a trail. The skate park down at the beach was actually filled in with sand. It was only dug out again when intrepid skaters dug it out themselves. And famously, a paddleboarder was arrested in Malibu for being in the ocean by himself. Remember, boys and girls, F is for fascism. Worst of all, forcing people to stay indoors may have actually prolonged the pandemic. The UK had the 6th most severe lockdown measures on Earth after Cuba, Eritrea, Ireland, Honduras, and Lebanon. But what's the current result of having the 6th most severe lockdown measures on Earth? Well, in January, the UK became the country with the highest COVID death rate in the world. Boris Johnson closed most businesses and locked almost everyone in their homes. And for what? These measures have obviously done nothing. Two regions that present a clear contrast are California and Texas. California locked down. Texas remained open. And yet, the two states had almost identical fatality rates. Check out this map. The size of the circles represents the number of deaths per 100,000 in each state. They vary a bit. Oregon and Utah are unusually low. New York and New Jersey are unusually high. But look at California and Texas. They're almost identical. In fact, Texas fared a bit better than California. When Governor Greg Abbott said that he was opening Texas up completely, the media framed him as irresponsible, even sociopathic. But he was right. Deaths never increased.
Now, Texas was one of the first states to lift its mask mandate, and doctors there say fewer people wearing masks actually hasn't really had a negative effect.
Hospital admissions did not rise. ICU admissions did not rise. Overall, the consequences of the mask mandate have not been increasing cases as some people were concerned about.
Meanwhile, California remained in strict lockdown. But lockdowns literally did nothing. Well, I shouldn't say nothing. They did nothing of benefit. What they did do was a massive amount of harm. I mentioned the absurd case of the windsurfer being arrested in Malibu, but far more egregious were the horrific arrests in the UK. Britain essentially became a police state in 2020. As Britain underwent lockdown in March last year, citizens were threatened with a £960 fine if they were caught outside their homes more than once, and they were even threatened with arrest. Derbyshire police used drones to spy on people hiking in the hills. They posted the videos on Twitter in order to shame those who wanted to get out and hike through the countryside. Have a look at this video and take note of all the people around these hikers. Look at all the people around them that they're very likely infecting with COVID. Yeah, there are none. There's nobody around them. These people were shamed for hiking through some of the most isolated countryside I've ever seen. And beyond that, these hikers probably aren't even infected with COVID. Putting healthy people in quarantine in order to stop the spread of a virus they don't have is insane. And keep in mind that there's almost no chance to spread COVID through brief outdoor encounters. There have been 0 reports of this kind of transmission anywhere in the world.
There isn't a single documented case that I'm aware of anywhere in the world of brief, casual outdoor contact, like passing someone on a sidewalk, leading to transmission. None.
There is very little scientific proof that if you're outdoors and you're not symptomatic and you're distanced and you do not need to wear a mask, that the risk is very low. Infection transmission has not been recorded. So I have not seen any evidence of it. And it's why I've been telling people pre-vaccination, post-vaccination, if you're away from others, you do not need to wear a mask.
You pointed out that outdoor gatherings in the right conditions can be safe.
Absolutely. We know a lot more about this virus than we did a year ago. We know that the risk of transmission is substantially reduced outside, if not negligible.
And if you're in the park and you're, 6 feet away from somebody, can you do that without a mask?
I think so. I think that we have to remember that when you're outside, it's essentially perfect ventilation. And looking at that, the risk is substantially reduced. It's not zero, but we need something for a harm reduction strategy, and the risk of transmission here is negligible.
Should we still have to mask up when doing outdoor activities? Well, researchers at Oxford say while data is limited, indoor COVID transmission is nearly 19 times more likely than outdoor.
SARS-CoV-2 does not appear to transmit outdoors. That could be a purely UV light or sunlight more generally based phenomenon, but it isn't. It doesn't appear to transmit outdoors at night either.
So shutting people in their houses, as was done in the UK, is totally useless. Despite this, UK police arrested thousands of people just for being outside, many of whom were protesting the lockdowns. In November last year, an actor on the show Coronation Street shot video of their mother being arrested by UK police because she tried to take the actor's 97-year-old grandmother out of a nursing home to be with the family.
So let's just make this very clear. My nan, my 97-year-old nan here, who we have taken from the care home because we haven't seen her for 9 months, is now being taken back by force to her care home. My mother has been arrested. My mother is in the back of the car here. She is a nurse. She is a fully qualified nurse who is wishing to care for her own mother. And here we have an incredible use of police time to take my 97-year-old grandmother back into a care home where she is deteriorating, where we haven't been able to see her for 9 months. Nan, I love you, and we are going to fight for you.
On Good Friday of this year, police entered a Polish church in London and shut down service. And then there was this infamous arrest.
And everything, will you catch them in? Let them do it, and I'll tell you now, no, you're supposed to be here to protect us, you're here to protect us, you are here to protect us. Are you standing under your oath? Are you standing under your oath? His name's not Martin, it's Matthew.
Where's
my son. He's isolated.
Step out my way.
No.
Step out
I
my
want
way.
your badge now. I want your badge. Are you? Where's your warrant? Where's your uniform? Hold on.
Martin, you're under arrest for a breach of COVID regulations. You failed to quarantine in a designated hotel when instructed to do so. You do not have to say anything that may harm your defence if you do not mention something which you later rely on in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence. Do you understand?
Are you standing under your...
Breaking somebody's door down and arresting them because they dared go outside. The UK has become a true authoritarian police state. And there are tons of these videos, police and government abusing their power, enforcing laws that violate civil rights, and for nothing. If anything, arresting these people puts them in closer proximity to police officers, which actually increases the chance for transmission if anyone there actually has COVID. But this is a natural progression in Britain. Most Americans are probably not aware of the severe and absurd language restrictions in the UK. You can be arrested in Britain simply for saying things that someone finds offensive. The UK has a law called the Communications Act of 2003. Section 127 of this act states that it's illegal for anyone to intentionally cause annoyance, inconvenience, or needless anxiety to another. That's a real law in the UK, and the government doesn't even have to prove that you intentionally upset anyone. They just need to claim that you've inflicted what they call gross offense. In 2017, UK police arrested over 3,395 of their own citizens for violating Section 127. That's an average of 9 people per day. But let's look at some examples of the UK's fascistic speech policies. Christian ministers have been fined and even arrested in the UK for expressing the belief that homosexuality is a sin. In 2019, a man named Harry Miller was contacted by police, and he was reported for participating in a, quote, hate incident because he liked a limerick that was posted on Facebook. Be careful what poems you like on Facebook, people. And of course, an acquaintance of mine, Marcus Meacham, known to most of you as Count Dankula, was famously arrested for, as a joke, teaching his girlfriend's dog to give a Nazi salute, which, by the way, is hilarious.
My girlfriend is always ranting and raving about how cute and adorable her wee dog is. And so I thought I would turn them into the least cute thing that I could think of, which is a Nazi. Sieg Heil! Sieg Heil! Sieg Heil!
He was arrested for that, and he was found guilty of, as I said before, causing gross offense, and he was fined £800. So yeah, police state. One notable exception to police enforcement of their absurd speech law is that they turn a blind eye to Muslims. Muslims in the UK tend to have de facto immunity, I guess because they're oppressed or something. One notorious example of this was the case of a Nadia Chan, who once posted that Jews are parasites and white people are swine and pasty bland bitches. Now, I'm fine with that. She shouldn't be fined or imprisoned for calling me a pasty bland bitch. But by that same token, Marcus gets to teach his dog to give Nazi salutes. The UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson used to criticize authoritarian nonsense like this, but since taking charge of the UK, Boris has enacted some of the most draconian lockdowns of any nation on Earth. And, as we see from the new science being published, it was all utterly unnecessary. One of the great tragedies of this virus is that regional severity seems to be unpredictably random. The worst hit country on Earth is the Czech Republic. Their fatality rate from COVID is 2,698 deaths for every 1 million citizens. This is the worst fatality rate on Earth. The Czech Republic, however, was the very first country in Europe to implement a mask mandate. Testing was widely available very early on, March 14th of 2020, and by April, their testing capacity surpassed demand. The Czechs even introduced a contact tracing program before COVID was ever a major problem in the country, and they required all citizens who had been in contact with anyone infected with COVID to quarantine. Despite these early measures, the Czech Republic eventually became the worst-hit country in the world. Many Eastern European nations have proved particularly vulnerable to COVID. Hungary, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Bulgaria, North Macedonia, Slovakia, and Slovenia are all in the top 9 of the worst-hit countries on Earth. Why Eastern Europe? I don't think anybody really knows. The pandemic was indeed tragic. Many people lost loved ones. And it was right for the governments of the world to try to do something to combat the virus. But a lot of the measures that were taken were ineffective. They appear to me to have been enforced merely to give the illusion that the politicians in charge were taking some kind of action. And as we've seen in various cases throughout the world, most of the measures that have been taken have done nothing to stop the spread. Some countries with strict restrictions did well, some did poorly, and some countries with few restrictions did well, and some did poorly. So, at the end of the day, if you suffered financially, personally, or emotionally because of the lockdowns, you can be reassured that they were utterly pointless. The governments of the world have all been torturing their own citizens for no reason at all. The lockdowns did not work. Well, that's it for me. And remember, the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. Good night.
I think you all know that I've always felt the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. You know, someone very profoundly once said, many years ago, that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.